that claims to have a route to the internet, and it just sucks in our network because nothing works.
Yeah, that's actually lots of issues. For example, also if you have a Windows box and click on share my IP connection, the Windows box thinks I'm in a router now and also start sending router advertisement, by that doing a big problem. Though the best thing you can do is disable auto configuration, but of course this is not what you want to do.
Yeah.
So what this needs is vendor updates.
And
kick their support lines.
Or no?
One more question over. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a question from the peace missions. So it was at the beginning of your slides. The one asked, hi, just looked at the slides for recent advances in IPv6 insecurities. Many threats are mentioned, but I don't see any countermeasurements, maybe Savvy or anything. And he posted a link against source spoofing.
The question is, what are the countermeasures against all the stuff I was telling? There are actually two or three countermeasures. First is IPsec, of course, obviously. But deploying IPsec, pain in the ass. There is SEND, Secure Encrypted Neighbor Discovery Protocol, which I would make another talk about the issues there once it's deployed, why that's a problem too. But it's too early, and it's not supported anywhere so far. And the third options you have is secure client configuration. But that's an issue because you can't disable all the stuff you want. And this depends on the Linux version, on the kernel version, on the operating system. So it's, at the moment, not much you can do. The girl over here had a question.
Yeah. Let's say you do a DHCP request and you get an IP or something.
Why, the others can get you a question as well.
So you do a DHCP request and get an IP, and then you enumerate upward and downward. Can't you get all the IPs from that for your scan?
I don't get your question, sorry. Again.
Okay.
Kannst du auf Deutsch sagen, wenn ich
if you do a DHCP request and you get an IP back, can
Yes.
you just enumerate up and downward from there
Yes.
to get all the IPs?
Yes.
Then why did you do all that statistical analysis to figure out the IPs?
Because not everybody is using DHCP, especially in a server environment. Yeah? But some do. And some configure by hand, some do just use the MAC address, so normal standard auto configuration feature. I wanted to see what is really useful to use. Yeah? And if they use DHCP, what are the common ranges they are using? Because that's what you need to scan for automatically. Of course, but that would be another talk. Once you have found some addresses, there are lots of stuff you can do to find out the rest. But then again, as I said, I can only do 60–70% of the stuff here. Yeah?
Okay.
No more questions?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for attending.
Another question from the peace missions.
Okay.
So, do you think
guys.
the layer 2 vulnerabilities can be fixed without changing the layer 2 or doing stuff in the switches like dynamic ARP inspection?
Actually, that's something Cisco wants to press currently in the RFC and IETF committees. They want to have the SEND protocol, so Secure Encrypted Neighbor Discovery Protocol, blah, 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 that this is actually happening in the switches, which only makes kind of sense. But that's actually something you could do. Of course, there is a detection of most of the attacks I present here, that's possible. But preventing them, that's the hard part. Detecting is, for the most stuff, pretty easy, actually. Because, okay, there's a new router being announced, every system sees that and can say, okay, this is a new router, I never heard of that before. Let's send an alert or log message or something. Detecting is easy, but preventive controls, that's hard.
Okay, then there's someone who asked me to ask you about TCP crypt.
I have no clue what it is.
Okay.
But could be one of those many RFCs which you can't read because there's just too many and nobody's implementing them.
Okay, and the last question from the peace mission is, tell him another countermeasure is to have switches that are IPv6 aware and do not allow sending of those messages on client ports.
Well, that would mean that you can specify filter lists and say these ports are clients, so ACLs on layer 3. Of course you can do that if your switch supports that.
I have a question. Now, currently, if you set up if you set up everything addresses and DNS and routers fixed, this is not working. I mean, what I wanted to tell, if you, for example, IPv4 also, you can send a fake, if you set up a router and a client or server who is, let's say, connecting to DHCP, and you spoof another DHCP, you can make a man in the middle, now, currently, with IPv4. And this, with IPv6 is the same. And if you set up a fixed IP addresses and fixed DHCP, you cannot spoof, or with IPv4 or with IPv6.
Yes and no. I get your question.
Okay, I just want to say that this is not IPv6 problem, but it's a general problem.
It's a general problem because IPv6 is 15 years old, and the security in the protocol is 15 years old. So you have what you have in IPv4, you have in IPv6. If you configure everything static, still some of the attacks are possible because duplicated address detection is still done, even if it's hard configured addresses. The redirect attacks are still possible, and so on and so on. So there's still stuff you can do also. Of course, you're way safer if you do everything statically.
Okay, but it is an implementation problem, and it's not an IPv6 problem. IPv4 is also have the same problems. You can do the man in the middle, just send a DHCP and another parameters for me, and I route my traffic to the real router. It's the same.
Let me put it like that. How old is IPv4? How many years?
I don't know exactly.
25 years maybe? Longer? Okay. Something like that, I think.
But
they haven't learned in the 10 years where all the issues were already known. And that's the basic part of the problem. It's a design problem, protocol design problem.
And is there a solution?
As I said, send IPsec client configuration, but this will take some time. Currently, no. In the future, hopefully. But I will do some more talks about that once this is done. Because one new technology, more problems.
Thank you, thank you.
Are there any more questions? So let's just thank Mark and be done for the day.